would you like to be seated for, Thad?
What's that?
For whom would you like to be seated? I guess Barbie's not here, or you want to just seat you for her?
Barbie said she was coming.
Okay. Then Dan, seat you for Dan.
Thank you.
Okay. We're supposed to elect officers? I'd like to have more people here to do that. Can we put that off for a month?
It's done in the first of every month is what I was told, so that was on.
We just do that?
I think we did.
We just did that.
November?
4 months ago or something,
Yeah.
yeah.
Let's,
Oh, I was told that it's done in January of every year.
Are you referring to the special meeting you had to elect Mark Cody as the interim wetlands official?
no, because I got this position.
Right. I
He
nominate-
resigned,
I nominate
and Dan
you.
is our secretary. So we did this.
We did this in.
I think it was November, October?
Yeah, back there someplace.
If you could check the minutes.
Yeah, I can check.
I'm pretty sure that was done.
And then we had Donna in, and we had to fix
I had
that.
to fix that because Donna was an alternate and couldn't come in as an officer because you have to be a full member. So we did do it.
So you did the elect.
Yeah, just take a look at,
We either did it ahead of schedule or behind schedule, but we did it.
yeah, but
I mean, I can check because it was there in the January agenda of last year, 2022. And so, from what I was told, that it's supposed to be done in January of every year. And so I'm not sure what.
okay. Well, we may have gone earlier, but just take a look if you don't mind, and if we have to catch up next week, we will. Welcome, Ms. Granton. Nice to have you here. Okay, so we'll put that off. Public participation, if anyone has anything that's not on the agenda they would wish to raise with us, please.
I'd like to ask a question, if you don't mind.
Sure, could you come up to the lectern and give us your name and address, please?
And I'd like to know why these meetings are not always recorded for streaming.
Well, they're not all streaming, but they are all recorded, I believe. Yes?
Because tonight's agenda on the website and also on this page says the meeting will be streamed on the town of Southbury website. So is
This is
it
actually
being
being streamed
streamed?
right now.
Okay.
So according to Sonia, it's being streamed right now. In the last couple meetings, we've had some technical difficulties. So the stream didn't, I guess, activate, if I'm correct in saying that, Sonia?
For the last one went through, but it was still streaming, and actually, if they, if you go back into the YouTube files, you will find the full, meeting.
The full program.
Punch in the date, you get them,
Okay.
the meeting.
Yeah, 'cause I think I was told that only half of it came through.
No, yes, for the last one,
But this
for the
one
live stream,
started-
only half of it came.
Did the streaming for this meeting start at 7, or did it start after 7?
It starts at 7, right at the,
Right at the beginning?
Yeah.
Okay, because this young man whom I don't know,
Jordan,
Jordan.
Yep.
Nice to meet you.
you as well.
Mentioned that he was not prepared to present a discussion on the Hollow Swamp Road issue.
I didn't draft
We
a
didn't get
report.
to it.
I didn't draft a site visit report for Hollow Swamp. Thad, one of our commissioners, reviewed that and wrote up a report that we'll be reading in today. But I was at the site, I reviewed Thad's report. Everything seems in order. There was one addition that I was gonna make when it came to that point, but
So is it up for discussion this evening?
it is still up for discussion, yes.
Is it up for any sort of vote?
That will be up for the commissioners to decide.
Well, yeah, there'll be some kind of decision. It may be put off, but we will do something with it.
Thank you.
And not necessarily.
Not
Okay.
necessarily it will. it be-
Because as a public participant, I've not been privy to the actions taken down there, and I'm a neighbor.
Okay,
So I'd like to at least make sure that I'm understanding that I'm getting the full knowledge of the events that have been occurring down there.
well, we will be discussing that later on. It's the third item under old business.
Yes, okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Could you give us your name and address, please?
Sure. I'm Victoria Butkus. I don't live in Southbury yet. I'm the future owner of 1863 South Britton Road. It's a 12-acre parcel. I wanted to come before you guys tonight to introduce myself, and also to open up a line of communication with you. My husband and I are interested in starting a farm once we close on the property, which will happen middle of next month if everything goes according to plan. I brought some maps and stuff. I don't know if you guys are interested, but I have them if you want. We need to clear some land, and it's our understanding that farms have the right to clear land up to and through wetlands. If you're familiar with the property at all, Transylvania Brook runs through it. So we are working through phase 1 of land clearing. It's just about 1 acre on the front third of the property. It doesn't involve actually crossing the brook at this point, but it does involve clearing up to the brook. So we've been in contact with lots of different resources. The NRCS, Natural Resource Conservation Service. I've been speaking with Jordan pretty extensively because we want to make sure that we're doing this on the up and up. We don't want to disturb the wetlands as they stand. We want to make sure that everything is done properly. We're working with a tree clearing company, Lenahan. They're out of Newtown, but I'm understanding that they work in Southbury pretty regularly. And we've come up with a plan to clear the land with what's called a log, sorry, I want to make sure I'm using the right term, a log erosion barrier. And that's actually straight from the NRCS website. They use it after forest fires to prevent land erosion. And what that is we would take timbers that are cleared as they're cleared and lay them parallel to the brook as a physical barrier to prevent any erosion from happening and disturbing the brook. And then we would also take wood chips from the land clearing and lay that in front of the logs as an additional source of a barrier, again, to just protect the brook. Once the clearing is done and the land has been grubbed and all of that, we would immediately plant ground cover to help establish, secure the land. And then we would leave the log erosion barrier in place until the ground is established. Because when you clear that much land, obviously there's going to be some unsettling. So we would leave all of that in place until it's been established. My reason for coming before you tonight is, like I said, to open up a line of communication. Our plan is to, the growing season is coming up quickly, and that's why we're doing this ahead of the closing date. We want to be as informed as possible, and so that when we actually close on the property, we can kind of hit the ground running. With an action plan that has been communicated to you guys, and if you have any advice or guidance, we want to have a long, productive, happy relationship with Southbury, and we feel like this is the best way to do it. The farm we're starting, we're doing an organic, no-till cut flower farm. So no heavy machinery, no fertilizers, no nothing crazy. So yeah, I don't know. I have some packets if you'd like, but.
Is this the property past the training school with the White
Yes.
House near the road and
Yes.
the pond?
Yep, yeah.
And does that property more or less run parallel to the road, or does it go up the hill in the back?
Both. It has quite a lot of road frontage. I want to say over 1,000 feet, and it backs up to the Southbury Land Trust actually on 2 sides.
Okay.
So if you're looking at the house from the street, the right side and the back side are up against the Southbury Land Trust. Yeah, yeah.
You're very brave.
Why?
Farming's hard.
Oh, I'm very passionate about it. I'm very excited to get started, and I want to make sure that we do it on the right way.
Come from a farming background?
No.
No? It's a brand new adventure?
Yeah.
And so are you anticipating planting along the brook corridor, or on the hill in the back, or a
our-
combination?
So our phase one is to take advantage of the land we would clear, and put the planting beds there for now, yes.
Okay,
We would like to plant fruit trees in the future, but I think that would be more up on the hill. But right now, all of the main flower beds would be, yeah, closer to the street.
would you describe it as clear cutting, or will you be removing enough that we could consider this to be a forestry type operation, or?
I think, so we would like to be, I believe actually the land is already established as a PA 490, if I'm not mistaken, as,
That's
as,
an agricultural tax deduction, more
yes,
or
but
less.
there's three, there's farm, there's forestry, and then there's open space, and right now it's classified as open space. We would be transitioning to farming.
Okay.
Is there a lot of tree removal that you plan to do? I think that might be what Carl was getting at.
No, not too terribly much. So phase one is just about an acre, and it's in front of the river, close to the, front of the brook, sorry, close to the street. And that's to be done as soon as possible. We want to take advantage of this growing season if at all possible, so that would be done basically as soon as we move in. Phase two is still a loose tentative plan to be completed next year, possibly, depending on how this growing season
Start making a
goes.
profit on the farm?
Yeah, and that would be just under 2 acres on the other side of the brook. But there's I want to say 4 acres. The whole back of the property is all trees, and we have no intention of clearing that because it's a pretty steep hill. It's not really viable farming land, so that would mean pretty much untouched.
Okay. It sounds like a very ambitious project. Our interest, of course, is in protecting
Of
the brook,
course.
and primarily, it sounds like you have a good handle on that.
Yeah,
If you can keep us advised of what you're doing, and especially this gentleman,
yep,
so he can assist in doing that.
Yeah.
And if, to the extent you have plans, it would be very helpful if we could discuss them with you and know what's going on. There are things you can do as of right on a farm. And there also, we have the authority to do certain things to make sure there's no abuse of what's happening. I personally have some concern about crossing the brook, which you will be doing eventually.
eventually, but not immediately.
But
Yeah,
when that comes up, that will be a fairly critical thing for us to consider. 'Cause
Yes.
we don't want, to the extent it can be avoided, things like cows walking through brooks.
we have no intention of
Break the banks
livestock.
down and make them, I understand.
Oh, okay, yeah,
Just to keep us advised of
Sure,
what's going on.
of
so we
course, yeah,
can
yeah, yeah.
Be very happy about it and not say, you really shouldn't do that.
Yeah, no, that's why I'm here. I don't want to step on anyone's toes. We want to have a good relationship with you guys and the town of Southbury in general. And in order for us to do that, we'd like to get off on the right foot
Sounds like you are.
and keep, an open line of communication. Like I said, we're new to the farming land, and we will need to be, pretty advantageous with this, and we'll need, guidance and stuff. We don't want to just, ask for forgiveness later, you know what I mean? If we can stay on the right path and not, because our property is stunning. I mean, if you're familiar with it, the 2 ponds right there are gorgeous. We would never want to disrupt or alter that really in any way. If anything, we'd like to highlight the beauty that we have on our property. And so that's why we're taking such great lengths and measures to make sure that we're going about this the proper way.
Sounds terrific.
Okay.
Just keep us posted if you would. and,
Yeah.
Has the tiny little cottage too?
Yes, there's a
love it.
small cottage. Yeah, it's really, really cute. A lot of projects. The house has been unoccupied for quite a while at this point, but it's a fun undertaking.
Good, good.
Welcome to Southbury.
Thank you so much. I just have one question. So, obviously we can't open any applications. We're not technically the owners of that property yet. Once we close in February, is there an application that you suggest we apply for, file with you guys? Or would you, I think we're working within our rights, but I just want to make sure that there's nothing additional that we should be doing.
Even where it's as of right, you need to file an application.
Okay,
I don't know what the form is.
okay. Okay,
exactly what the form will be.
okay,
Because we do want to know, even though you have the right to do something,
of course.
we have the right to know what it is. So you
Yeah, yeah.
understand that. You're here.
Yes.
Which
Yeah.
means upon the application, the plans will be submitted and everything, and they'll have
Yeah.
a comprehensive view of what you're doing, so they can render, you know, either their advice or whatever it
Yeah,
may be.
and Lenahan, the company we're working with, is also like very, very cautious. They want to make sure that we're doing this the right way too, so we're also making sure that we're not, because we don't want to jeopardize anyone, us, them, you guys, so,
Well, good luck.
thank you so much.
Hopefully you won't need too much luck.
I don't think so. I think we'll be okay. Thank you guys so much, I appreciate your time.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Thank you, Judy.
Anyone else? No? All right, we will close public participation and move on to show cause hearings, 1200 Main Street South. Jordan, would you care to sum up
Hi.
where we are? Hello.
Yeah, so essentially,
Could you identify yourself, please?
Michael DePompe, Apple Real Estate.
essentially where we're at in this application, 2 separate site visits were performed from this commission. Carl and Thad have got eyes on the property. We addressed the erosion controls in the front more or less. We'll discuss that in greater lengths during this application. But for the most part, the area in the back, I advised Mr. DePompe to get an engineering professional review that we could look at, that could work on the property with and for him in terms of proposing a remediation project to get everything into compliance and to, you know, bring the areas, whether it was affected by Mr. DePompe or the previous owner, into, you know, stabilization and compliance. And last I spoke with Mr. DePompe, he was looking into a couple engineering companies to do the work for him. I spoke with Kevin Bielmeyer this afternoon, and I guess, you know, some progress has been made in that, right? But for the most part, the last hearing, Mr. DePompe was absent during the hearing, so we had to table it for another month, and, you know, here we are. And at this point, Mr. DePompe, you can take it away and let us know what.
Yes, last month I apologize. I was trying to secure a civil engineer to do as Justin had suggested, to get some drawings made up and some suggestions on what to do on the property. I was having a hard time because of the holiday, and I tried talking to Civil One, and they never got back to me. And I'm finding out when they don't get back to you in a few weeks, they're very busy. So they happened to get back to me this week, but I apologize for last month. I'm still working on trying to get a civil engineer. I couldn't secure one, and it totally slipped my mind to be here, so I do apologize to everybody. This month, I'm here, and I'm still trying to secure a civil engineer. I spoke to Civil One, couldn't get them. Charlie Somers, I couldn't get him. They haven't returned my call yet. And Brian from Civil One suggested them. And then tomorrow I'm going to meet Ron Wolf. So hopefully I could secure him, but he has a little bit of a problem where he has another commitment, I think in Woodbury, and it's the same night as you guys meet here. So I don't know if that's going to be a big problem, but I guess, you know, I'll work it out with him the best we can. But I may have to present everything to the commissioners, but I'll try to get him here. But at least it's very hard. I'm just having a hard time trying to secure somebody for some reason. Everybody's very busy. But I intend on having plans for the next meeting and try to remediate whatever's suggested to me.
And in the meantime, nothing's going on, correct?
No, nothing's going on, no.
You've not removed any additional debris, cars, trucks, anything in the back?
No, we haven't touched anything. You had suggested not to do anything, and I didn't. Yeah.
And when you do speak with Ron tomorrow, concluding that meeting, could you shoot me an email just to let me know
Yes.
preliminarily what you think might be going on,
Okay.
and if you'll be able to secure him, and if we'll have you here for the next meeting, hopefully with some engineering plans that we can actually review and look into.
Yeah, that's my intention, is to secure him tomorrow. He's gonna come out and look after lunch.
Yep.
And then at that time, I can shoot you an email and let you know how it went, and.
Great.
And, I think it's, talking to him briefly, this evening, it seemed like, a job he was gonna.
Yep.
Take.
And we've dealt with Ron, so,
Oh, great,
yeah,
okay.
we'll look forward to seeing him again. As far as the erosion controls in the front that you and I worked on
Yes,
installing
yes.
together, those will need to be maintained.
Okay.
So you will need to get some people out there just to update them, make sure everything's towed in properly, as I showed you.
Make sure it's still as it was.
The commissioners, up to them, whether or not I be monitoring this maintenance of the erosion control as I did during the original, or if Mr. DePompe can conduct the work and then I'll perform a follow-up site visit. I'll leave that to the commissioners, since he is currently under a cease and desist.
Yeah, you're gonna have to at least take a look at it once in a while.
To monitor or to maintain?
Both.
So,
Sorry.
no, that's not a problem. So, if we could schedule early next week.
Sure.
I'm in classes all this week, so I'm out of the office. But if we can get a schedule for early next week where we can get your guys out there,
Okay,
we'll get it towed in properly. It won't
Okay.
take nearly as long as
Sure.
the original day.
absolutely.
But we'll tie that up, and at least that can maintain
Okay.
and remain, so no erosion enters
Yeah,
that
once we
stream.
have a civil engineer and a company on board, I think you can cut back a bit. In the meantime,
Not a
there
problem.
isn't anybody else.
Okay, no, not a problem.
So we'll continue next month, and hopefully you'll be able to get somebody. Mr.
Yes,
Wolf would
yeah,
be
I believe now that the holidays had passed, and other than these companies are very busy, it seems that way, but I think with Ron Wolf, I think I should be able to secure him, and I'll keep Jordan informed, and we'll meet next week, and we'll take a look at the silt fence that's been installed, and we'll re-secure it.
Should work fine.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thank you
everybody.
for coming.
Thank you.
Do you
Could I-
need a motion?
I
Could
don't
I,
think, do we need a motion?
I don't know, I'm
I
asking.
believe that has.
What's,
Can I make,
yeah, we probably do, actually. I'm
Yes.
sorry, go ahead, Ted.
we went down there, I think only 2 or 3 of us have been down there. Are we gonna, like, rotate so that everybody gets a chance to see what the status is, the starting status of this project?
You think we should?
I have no problem.
Well, I just think that it makes it easier to, when you go down there and actually look at what we were looking at, it makes it a little bit easier to understand the magnitude of the situation.
That works for me. I'd like to go myself, so if we could set something up.
I've been there.
Yep.
Carl's been there.
So I believe we had Donna and Dan on the second day, and Thad and Carl on the first day.
Well, why don't you let me know when you're going out, and I'll go with you.
That's wonderful. And anyone else here
I may assume I can.
today? Yeah, not a problem. Anyone else here today that would like to join as well? Shoot me an email. It'll be early next week, like I said. And when Mike does reach out to me, I will shoot a message to all the commissioners to make sure that everyone knows exactly what date we're going. Hopefully,
That's great.
we'll cap it at 2 commissioners to keep it under a meeting. But yeah, even if we have to do multiple visits, I have no problem. And Mike has been amicable to visiting the site. Gyre 9 doesn't seem to be agitated by commissioners visiting or, their daily work, so I think that's perfectly fine.
Okay, that should work. And, yeah, I think we need a motion.
I'll make a motion to continue the cease and desist and show cause hearing at 1200 Main Street South.
Second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Next matter is 346 Jeremy Swamp Road. I'm going to kick that over to Jordan again, since I don't really know what's going on with it.
So 346 Jeremy Swamp Road, that was the violator who built a retaining wall and pavilion structure, agitated the wetlands a bit. No plans have been submitted, the applicant is not here today. This has been arduous at best to get any information as to how the wetlands will be remediated, so at this point.
They're
It's,
working out the legalities between the two property owners because of the infringement, and I think it's gonna be at least part of the holdup on this.
Weren't they proposing to try to buy a chunk of the neighbor's property? so
That-
They would be,
ended up being a non-starter due to the
Okay.
fact that if the parcel that violated purchased some of the adjoining parcel in order to make his structures compliant, would then in turn cause that parcel that's being purchased
Be
from
non-conforming.
to be a nonconformity. I spoke with Mr. Edwards, who's the owner of 376 Jeremy Swamp, and he doesn't seem likely to go through the entire ZBA process, which
Right.
proving a hardship would be very difficult in
Yep.
this case,
were impossible.
or impossible, because it would be a
By choice.
self-generated
Yeah.
hardship.
Take a slice off somewhere else. and it'd be a
Frankly,
nightmare.
You know, as far as the pavilion structure goes, it doesn't meet setbacks. I'm working with Tom Kalin to handle that. He was issued the cease and desist because he got the property surveyed. Then it was very clear that he had built his retaining wall along the driveway on his neighbor's property. And then I got an email from Mr. Edwards, the neighbor, stating that, you know, he's doing work on the wall again while we're currently going through his wetlands application to get him permitted to have done the work in the first place. Issued in the cease and desist. He essentially told me I'm gonna do the work anyway. I monitored that whole process, day in and day out. He finished the wall regardless of the cease and
Finish the
desist.
wall.
Finished the wall, so now it's not on the adjoining property owner's land, but it's on his. However, this whole thing has kind of been
Well, we could fine him.
an absolute mess, which is the stage we're now into. Not only with wetlands, but all the other various
So he's
violations.
Not only has he not done anything to remedy the problem, he's actually acted to make it worse while under the cease and desist.
Correct,
Great.
correct.
So the activities that he did on the adjoining property, that would be a civil matter between the two property owners, is that correct?
As to the two of them, yes.
Yeah, as to whatever Mr. Edwards wants to go through.
So,
Yeah.
so that would be a civil matter.
Correct.
The, doing work while under cease and desist, that would be a matter with the town and them, correct?
Correct.
So
And without permits.
I'm suggesting at this point, perhaps we need to just refer this matter to town council, because he's not abiding by the cease and desist, and we're kind of out of options, I think.
We can't do much on our own.
Right. And if we just chose to do something like that, it would have to go through town council anyway, I believe, so I think we should turn the file over to him at this point.
With a recommendation that some action be taken, even if it means going to court and getting a judge to order him to stop.
I don't know the legalities
And-
of it, but
And impose such fines as we can, which I think is $250 a day. I don't know what our process is to contact council, frankly.
I don't either.
We haven't done that before.
I will make a call to Attorney Kalin and get the ball rolling, because it's already kind of in the process as
Do
far
we have
as.
to go through the selectmen's office?
I was
in
gonna
order to
say,
get
you might
permission?
want
I
to
think we do.
notify the
Prior to.
first
yeah.
selectman where we are in the process, and that this is our recommendation. And if he has an alternate solution, fine, but, right
We're
now,
stuck.
that's what we're considering as a way to move forward.
And that's exactly what I'll do.
Yeah, I will, just to make it so it's on the record, make a motion that we contact the first selectman's office and then town council to see what our options are in dealing with this matter at 346 Jeremy Swamp Road,
376,
46.
346.
346.
We'll get to 376 in a bit.
That's somebody else, yeah, we'll get to that shortly. I need a do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Carl seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
You're gonna be busy.
I could say
I
I wasn't.
warned you when you took this job.
I know you did.
Okay, next matter is old business, application 1701, 254 Pamparog River Road. Tree removal, repair, and replacement of stairs and other facilities.
So Carl and I, as well as Dan, visited the site a couple months back now. It's a proposal for tree removal. During the last meeting, we were having the last meeting anticipating additional information being provided, or we generated some questions that the applicant wasn't there to answer. In trying to contact the applicant, his phone number that he listed is no longer in service. I've emailed the applicant to confirm that he would be at this meeting so that these questions could be understood as to the extent of the tree removal that he intends to conduct, as, you know, well as any other questions the commission came up with. And I've yet to hear anything back. Mr. Ralston is not here today, and that's where that one stands.
What's the status on the site? Have they done anything? Or is it actually a
No.
real application to do future work?
It was an application to do future work, to conduct tree removal and any type of maintenance he needed to do for his stairway.
Well,
That goes
since he's
right
not
down to-
here, I think we don't really have an option, do we?
Uh,
Didn't get the information that was
If
sought?
the commission had questions that haven't been answered, I'd say, no, we don't really have any option. I think you'll probably have to put something in writing to him, as, I know you got a long list of to-dos already, but I think you'll probably have to send him some kind of certified letter saying that a response is required and,
Or the matter will be
you know,
Yeah.
by a given date or,
next meeting. In the event that we don't receive that, this application will be rejected.
we could do that if it's an incomplete application, or I guess we're requesting information, which makes it incomplete, so.
Correct.
Yeah.
You don't mind?
I have no problem doing that.
You're always nice about it, that's kind of nice. Okay, application 1702, 1162 Bullet Hill Road.
Okay, so this applicant was requested to have additional information in the form of, Carl, if you remember,
Yes,
while on,
the 4 trees at the back of the house?
yeah, while discussing, we essentially came to the determination that we wanted to understand the professional review of the trees. The applicant claims that a lot of them are dead, dying, split, in danger of falling. Upon our visual review, nothing really indicated that all too much in the form of, you know, posing any danger to the house or to the land. Everything seemed very far back from his property and his house, frankly. So the commission determined that we needed just some additional information to determine what exactly was damaged, what exactly was dying, what posed a threat, how much of a threat it posed to the property. I spoke with Mr. Giuseppe, or Orsini, and he actually stated that due to the holiday, he wasn't able to get in touch with any tree contractors. He does have one currently, working with him to get us the information, so I imagine during the next meeting, and I will follow up with him before then, that we should have the information that we need in order to close this one out.
All right, I'm going to move then that we continue this, the review of this application pending his coming in at the next meeting with an appropriate expert or consultant to give us the information that was asked from at the last meeting.
Wonderful.
I'll second that.
Carl seconds, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Okay, that's all under old business. Other business, aquifer regulations.
No, we should be on to Hollow Swamp.
That's not on, oh, I'm sorry, I missed one. Yep, this is application 1704. Hollow Swamp, thank you very much. Hollow Swamp Estates. Is anyone here from the, representing the applicant?
The applicant.
Hi, why don't you step up and identify yourself, please?
Angelo Macris. Angelo Macris.
Welcome. kicking this back to you, because I wasn't here.
Yeah, so Mr. Macris applied through Wetlands, 2008, was it? Yeah. Work wasn't conducted, the application expired, or the permit, rather, expired. Mr. Macris is proposing to subdivide his property into an additional 3 lots, maintaining his original lot, totaling 4 lots. There will be a new driveway cut coming in to serve 2 lots behind his current home and barn area. And then an additional parcel and driveway cut will be conducted down the road, still on his property, but quite a bit away from the house that currently exists. Thad and I went out to the site. Thad generated the report and got eyes on the property, understood exactly where the driveway was coming in, the impact of the wetlands, different areas of wetlands on the property, and, you know, their proximity to the proposed parcels. From what, you know, Thad and I reviewed on site, we got an idea of exactly where the driveway cut was coming in, and the driveway cut that serves the 2 properties comes the closest to the wetlands. There was a marker out there that seemed to be, you know, 5-10 feet from the wetlands. You know, it wasn't put at the 50-foot regulated area, it was put pretty close to the wetlands area. But we did a quick measure, there still seemed to be, you know, about 30-40 feet that could serve for the driveway cut. Once you get into the property, the parcels and the driveway curve away from wetlands. If you were on the commission in 2008, you'll remember this, but if not,
I vaguely remember this. Is this application just for a renewal of the same thing that was previously approved, or is this an
Nothing-
addition to?
nothing has changed from the original application, but since the permit expired,
Yeah.
this is now a new application,
It's changed that there are gonna be new lots.
which was in
Is that
the,
in the original?
that was in the original.
Oh, okay.
Correct. So planning actually approved the subdivision, so it's technically currently subdivided, but since the wetlands permit lapsed, we're going through this process again. And there's really not too much else to state about this one. Mr. Macris, while on site, the wetlands area just next to the barn, right? There's that big pit right along the roadway there. Thad and I observed some debris that was put out there, some trash, things of that nature, and right along the bank to the wetlands, there were 2 car batteries embedded in the soil.
I'm sorry, no knowledge of that.
I don't imagine you do, but those will definitely have to be,
I will remove
Cleaned up?
them, of course.
Yep.
Yes.
and then I'll
Of
just,
course.
you know, I'll drop by whenever is okay to confirm that, but other than that,
Wait, you're talking behind the barn,
behind the barn,
and I can't imagine who put those there, but I've had tenants there for the last few years. Okay, I will remove them.
There you go.
fair enough, yeah.
I've had them throw them into my yard too, so.
No, I remove them, period, without any rigor.
Okay.
Great.
Move them.
Yeah, as soon as they're removed, let me know.
Is there
Contact
anything
my
that's
office.
changed since the last app permit was granted that we should consider in issuing the new one?
Everything's remained the same from the
It's all
original.
the same.
Everything, even the drawings, they're falling apart because they're quite old.
Have you been there?
The driveway comes in, and it's a very short distance, and then it curves away from the wetland area. The wetlands, I saw 3 markers out there, so there were markers placed in there. Now, whether or not they technically, you know, were placed in the right position relative to the actual wetland, but it looks like it's minimum impact, this proposed driveway going
If I
in.
remember this, there was really no other feasible alternative, is there, to
No,
access
because there's
property?
that wetland area, and then there's the driveway to the existing house, the farmhouse.
Yeah,
And this house is from the 1700s, I think he told me. So, really, there's only one way to get in there. On the other side of the barn is wetlands, so you can't go that way either. So this is not only the most logical, but it's probably the only real alternative that you have with minimum impact on wetlands.
Well, I don't, any other discussion? I don't see that there's a lot of
No.
options or changes that need to be made here.
I don't have a draft resolution for this one. In considering the driveway, that's the only area that's really going to come into contact or operate in any capacity with the wetlands. I didn't
Well,
see.
We did discuss rain sheets coming down the steep
For
hills
the drainage
behind.
in the back, yeah.
I mean, it is very steep. If you've driven up and down Hollow Swamp Road and you look in there and then you actually walk back there, I mean, it's quite steep. The hill, the houses are gonna be built at the base of that hill.
Oh, I remember
But
that, sort of.
there's gonna be some water shedding down the hill, and that's, you know, you probably have to have some sort of a way to deflect that away from the houses.
Could I
Please.
speak? The plans, as we designed them in 2008, include a, I don't know what you call it, water shed
There was a
Right.
diversion,
behind the
wasn't there, up
houses,
the
behind
front
all the
window?
houses
Yeah,
down at, yeah, we realized that, and you realized that, and you asked us to do that. So we put curtain drain behind all the houses to divert the water so that we wouldn't flood the houses. And we also included walls in the front to bring, the front yard up.
Oh, retaining walls, so,
Yeah, retaining walls, it just retain the dirt from moving forward. But the most important part was the curtain drain behind all the buildings. 3 buildings, 3 curtain drains to, shed the water away from the wells, from the,
we had
Septic.
concern, I think there were concerns about even getting into basements and things like that because
Yeah,
of
yeah.
the steepness of the hill,
Right.
as I vaguely recall.
no, it's very steep. And,
Yeah.
Yeah, so in 2008, this commission asked us to put curtain drains in, which are on the plans.
Okay. I don't really see, we don't have a resolution to actually act on, so.
I'd like the commission to consider perhaps requesting that the applicant have his engineering plans reviewed.
I think that's a good idea.
They're 15 years old approximately at this point, and engineering practices and materials have changed over that period of time. Maybe there's no need for any changes, but at least your engineer could review them and stamp them with his seal or whatever as being appropriate for this point in time.
Excellent idea.
It's all nice, but my engineer retired.
then a different engineer will have to do it.
Well, an engineer, I mean, as I recall, the commission had a fair amount of discussion over this, application because a majority of that property is not what I would call grade A as far as development goes over there, and there were some concerns about the pitches and the way the water would be handled and that sort of thing. So, if there's been improvements or if they've learned lessons over the last 15 years, we might be well advised to take advantage of them. That's a suggestion from me.
Well suggested, but this was an approved, and
Yes, it was.
ironically, the town of Southbury did not indicate to me that this would expire. And, if they did that when it expired, I would have done that at that time. And unfortunately, it's just making this project much more expensive and
No, I guess we understand that, but our charge is to protect the wetlands, and it has been about 15 years. guess I would have to agree with Carl. I don't think we're asking you to re-engineer the entire project, but to have someone who's qualified to look at how the water is being handled and to, hopefully they'll simply say, look, this is still appropriate, and they'll sign off on it, and then we have someone we can turn to if it doesn't work.
Okay, so maybe you can give me a exact request of what you're looking for, and then I'll pass it on to an engineer, and we'll get it done. But, I don't want to come back here next month and have the same questions, so.
Well, since we are only working on very old plans, I don't think we're in position to tell you exactly what we want. The engineer should be able to understand that we are concerned that the plans that were developed originally for handling water flow onto, over, and off of the property need to be reviewed. He or she will know what that means and look at how it's being handled, and we can't begin to tell them how to do that. That's not our job. I recognize that has imposed some additional cost on you. We don't mean to make it unduly onerous, but our responsibility is to try to balance what you want to do with what, if I remember it right, is a pretty iffy site in building on it and protecting the resources of the community. So I guess, Carl, if you want to make that a motion, I would request a second.
I'll put it in the form of a motion if it's required.
I know that it's required, but it would then be on the record.
All right, well, I would request the applicant to have the engineering plans reviewed and perhaps re-stamped by an engineer, showing that they are within correct specifications and best management practices for the date. Basically is kind of what I'm looking for, I would think.
I would only modify that by saying that it must be stamped.
Must be re-stamped and reviewed for applicable changes over the last 15 years. Something along those lines is kind of the point of this.
We can play with the exact language. Can we get a second on that?
I'll second it.
Bob, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay.
Well, thank you very much.
All right,
That's
thank you,
my
sir.
next step.
Chris, sorry to make your life a little bit harder, but
This is life.
thank you. All right. Am I on track?
Yep.
Aquifer regulations. As far as I know, we have not yet received plot plans from the water company?
We did get the level A map.
Okay.
We
and
did.
We have
So
to,
that'll, just kind of receive those. How exactly would this commission like to review those maps and make decisions as to any changes? I did confirm with the First Selectman's office that this commission was in fact transferred the powers of the Aquifer Protection
oh yeah,
Agency.
we were.
I know that was part of just confirming that it was done. We couldn't really place our finger on whether or not it happened.
Well, we have to look at the maps. Articulate any issues we have with them or proposals to change the
Yep.
boundaries. We have to vote on those, and then we have to go out for a public hearing to review whatever those boundaries may be. And I do not recall the timing for that. It's not particularly long.
It's not, no.
It's like 120 days.
Once, yeah.
Something like that,
hearing
so-
process kicks off.
That's 4 months.
Would it make sense to publish those maps in Voices or?
I believe we actually have to.
You have to?
There will-
Okay,
whether
so
or
that
not-
people can
They can
have
come
a
in
look and
and look
then,
at them, yeah.
Or
Okay.
whether or not it's posted physically, you know,
Okay.
2x4s put in the ground and a map, you know.
oh, it has to be
displayed.
physically marked out?
There's a couple options we have
Oh,
as far as how we notify,
Well, I know we have to put a notice in the paper
Mhm.
and make it available
of the public
in
hearing.
a legible format here.
Mhm.
So at least we can do that. And then we have to put out the revised ones if we decide to revise it.
Mhm.
So let's start by getting that notice into the paper that the aquifer protection maps are available for inspection by the public at, between the hours of whatever it is, 8:30 and 4:30 at
Yep.
Wetlands office at Town Hall. And comments will be, I don't recall how long they have to comment.
Can I ask a question? Does,
Yeah, of course.
since we're starting up with a new commission, are all of us required to take that,
No, the requirement was that at least one member of the commission get the certification. You did it, I did it.
I did it.
I did it.
Oh, you
So we
guys
have
all
more
did
than
it,
enough.
So we have plenty of people.
okay,
But we are gonna have to actually physically sit down, either individually or collectively, and go
Mhm.
through this and say, yes, we wanna
Yeah.
follow these, or no,
We should have a
wanna
work
move it.
session
I
on
think we
this.
should.
I think that's a great idea, whether or not, we get time to review the regulations individually. I know, I become versed in them, and then a couple
Mhm.
weeks pass, and
Yeah, I didn't retain much of that.
I
I get
can't-
bogged down by sign regulations and
I
lighting
think
regulations.
setting up a time, are Tuesdays good for people during the week? I mean, I know Donna
Good.
can't come in except after 3 o'clock.
Okay.
Personally, I'd way rather do it at 3:30 or 4 o'clock than come in at 7 o'clock at night.
You're telling me.
Yeah, so what do you
I'm good
guys
for
think?
several months anyways.
Bob,
Fair enough.
or,
This workshop, was it like a one-time workshop?
well, we'll start with one
Yet
and
to
see
be
how it goes.
determined.
Yeah, true, right. Yeah, if you give me a date, I just have to schedule time away from work to
Okay.
come in at that time.
Would we
Well-
like to get this done this month, a workshop?
Sooner the better, because
I
we
think
have to
so.
go to the public
And
and
we
get
don't
their
wanna be
comments
caught
and
behind.
amend it, and then
Mhm.
have the final public hearing.
Okay.
And make our final resolutions, which is gonna be, since we have it, it's gonna be February, March, May.
Got it.
Do we have a deadline for this?
We have to, have the public hearing, I believe,
Oh.
do you remember, 120 days?
something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
And the other thing is
And then
that,
we have another, like, 60 days after that to issue the final, what we would call the approved map. And that will then guide in the future where the people have to report and what they can do and all that stuff.
Businesses
Okay.
need to be registered.
It's a royal pain in the,
It is, and if I remember correctly, once we adopt this, we have to send written notification to everyone that is in the affected area within 6 months or a
Or we,
given.
or we post it very visibly. That's where the physical posting can come into play.
there are 2 requirements, I think.
I think there's 2 postings,
There might
and
be
that can,
well,
those
we-
can be
We
physical,
could look into that.
which
Okay.
would be part of the
All
work.
I'm,
have to do
all I'm
something like
suggesting
that.
is we have to be ready for what we're taking on
Right.
before we take it on, because.
Which is,
Well,
And I think there's like 3 different applications we have to generate,
Yes,
if I remember
other
right.
stuff. But we're already in it, because
Okay.
once we have the maps, the time clock starts.
Oh, it does? Oh,
Yeah.
I thought
And
it
we
was
have-
after it was accepted, approved by the town or whatever.
No, the 120 days starts from when we get the stupid maps. We're only dealing with one company, right?
company, water company?
The water company.
They
Okay.
provided it to us. It's not too much as
Well,
far as our
some places
level A
get a couple
aquifer
of-
area.
A couple of water companies, it gets even worse.
Yeah.
So,
but the, one of the things, though, that caught my attention is that it's pretty strict about if a gas station, or any one of the buildings like on Main Street down here shuts down, before anybody can come in and buy that place and everything else, there's rules about, what you have to do for oil, and grease and all this other stuff
a
that
whole
might.
bunch of testing requirements and all sorts of other stuff, yeah.
If I'm remembering right, I don't think Main Street South is part of the aquifer protection area.
I thought it was
Level A.
Southbury Training School, and then the other section came down along here in the center of town.
Well, that's why we have to look at the maps
Yeah,
and see exactly where it goes, and we do have the option, if it's close and we decide we want to push it, I'll just make this up, we want to push it from Hickok Road up to South Main Street, we have the option to do that after the public hearing, which would pick up the dry cleaner. That's why you said that. But
Perfect,
that's a drop-off dry cleaner too, so it's not covered.
perfect. We'll let them do their business
So
in
we have,
Danbury.
we really need to get it rolling.
Yeah, so I think we should, Sonia will reach out to everyone to hopefully get a,
Sounds like
work session scheduled.
Tuesdays generally are pretty good for people,
Yeah.
or Wednesdays.
So Tuesday this month,
Wednesday's not too early.
whenever we can get the majority of,
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays are not good for me.
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, is everyone else here more or less good with Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday during the day, right
Yeah.
around 3 o'clock?
Yeah.
Wonderful.
I'm
I
off
think
for
so.
several
Okay.
months, so I'm good for now.
I'd like to make it a little late enough that we can get Donna and Dan. So
3,
we do the
4,
best we
like,
can.
yeah, whatever it needs to be, because I think this is a great idea to get a work session going. Prior to the work session, I would greatly recommend that everyone review.
Can we get it so we might be able to project the map?
yeah. Oh, yeah.
So we can
Absolutely.
look at it,
All we gotta do is log into the computer.
big enough, okay, great.
But review the aquifer protection regs, just get familiar with them, the timelines that we're gonna have to
Such a pain
deal
in
with.
the ass.
I know, I'm sorry.
It's not your fault.
I'm the first selectman.
We didn't
I
ask
don't
for
know
this
what to
either,
tell
you know.
No, I know you didn't, and I don't think
Could have given
anyone.
it to zoning.
Confirm next Tuesday for 3 o'clock then? Should we confirm a time
You
and
will,
date,
we'll
or
send out
we send out
an email and we'll
Okay,
confirm
and
it
we'll all
then.
get back
That
to
way we
you
can
and
get as
everybody
many
will say
people as
no.
possible.
All right. Thank you, everybody. I know
Good to know
this is
everyone's
a pain.
schedules.
Staff reports.
Oh, boy.
You need a helper.
Sonia's my helper.
Yeah, but she needs a helper.
Sonia does need a helper. Memo to Inland Wetlands Commission from Jordan Marcinko, Land Use Enforcement Officer, date January 10th, 2023, subject to staff report. Background is Old Farm Road, Transylvania Brook Estates, PDD number 21. Old Farm Road is in a recent development located off of Roxbury Road and State Route 67. It is currently home to
You know,
4.
I don't think you need to read this. We have it.
I was gonna say, like,
Why don't you just give us a
okay,
quickie?
perfect.
give us any
Honestly,
Highlights, and we'll go from there.
zoning commission likes everything read into record, and I appreciate
Well,
the
this
way
is
you
in
guys
the
do it.
record.
Perfect, it's in the record. So, essentially, Transylvania Brook Estates, they're building 2 more houses. I recommended, that monthly site visits be conducted to maintain the erosion controls, or, monitor the maintenance of the erosion controls proximal to the wetlands area. This is on the other side of the road there, so it's well without of, the 100-foot regulated area from the Transylvania Brook.
Good.
I recommended wetlands markers be installed, as was for every other parcel that was developed for that site. So it's just,
That's probably in their permits anyway.
yeah, I'll have to review that,
Should be.
but yeah, I'll
You
double
can-
check that they
You can do
got
more than
installed.
recommend. I think you just
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah, it's a condition of the permit, so if those aren't installed based on the permit that was issued, they will be installed during this. Prior to construction, site visits will be conducted to make sure the erosion controls are in compliance. Reinforced erosion controls proximal to the regulated areas with hay bales or a comparable erosion control measure. And that got approved for 2 properties, so 1 old farm and 3 old farm. If you, not included in this site report, but following this site report, there's 2 site walk reports from 354 Holly Hill and 122 Beecher. I wanted to bring those to your attention. 354 Holly Hill Lane, there was quite a bit of back and forth, making sure that the erosion controls got installed properly. There's a very small bit of wetlands to the east and southwest of the property. Not really on the site, but the regulated area kind of tips into the property, and there's a large slope to the southwest, so reinforced in the areas that are proximal to regulated areas. Went out multiple times based on the pictures to monitor the installation of the erosion control, which took a while, but eventually, after a conversation with the excavator, we got it done the right way, and I was very happy with how they did it. More or less, I gave the same conditions to this permit approval, that monthly maintenance of the erosion controls be monitored, as well as the reinforcing of the erosion controls proximal to the wetlands area.
Or with the rock on it.
Yeah, right. So that was a lot of the issues. They had already conducted the earthwork prior to installing the erosion controls, so whoever went out there the first time just laid out silt fence and didn't even bother to remove some of the rocks that they laid it over. So we finally got it handled, gave the same conditions pretty much as I did for Old Farm, and that project will be progressing, and I will be monitoring it as it progresses. 122 Beecher, this will be a fun one for you guys to kind of look at, because this site is pretty extensive. The reason I wanted to bring it to your attention, because more or less I was brought out there originally to the neighbor's parcel for complaints, violations, things of that nature. Upon issuing a notice of violation to the owner at 122 Beecher, I got invited onto the property to discuss with the owner and the contractor as to how they were conducting the work, were any of the violations that the neighbor had claimed been conducted or are being conducted. From what I saw from the neighbor's property, I didn't notice any erosion controls, and that was really my purpose for being out there, was based on, you know, what I could see as far as violations and what I could enforce. They did have erosion controls downslope of the property, but if you reference photo number 2,
Yeah.
you can see that it's heavily overburdened. It was installed properly. I'm always happy when people do the bare minimum and install silt fence properly. However, a breach did occur. There are wetlands back there, if you look at image 3. They're a bit farther back there, but since a breach had occurred and since a deposition event had, you know, been almost affecting the regulated or wetlands area, essentially I wanted to get remediative action done immediately. The following day, I went out there and I was very pleased to find out that they had conducted everything that I asked of them. Image 7 was an insert that I recommended. They already had the hay bales that you see on that picture. If you go to image 8, this is a storm drain that essentially is built up so nothing enters the grates there. Everything kind of percolates through the wall of the infrastructure. I recommended that a hay bale be kind of impacted in that area just to reduce some of the siltation that is entering that system. On their own, they kind of dug a channel on image 9 to kind of focus the water since it's sheeting off this area very aggressively. They put some hay bale check dams in that area. If you go to image 10, I recommended that, one, they reduce the burden on the silt fence, reinstall it anywhere necessary, and install an additional barrier up gradient from that silt fence. They conducted that across the site, was very pleased with what I was seeing. The area, I called it a choke point. Essentially, the entire site almost drains into this area.
Oh, great.
Okay. As you can see, the water had already pooled up. I buried my foot all the way down to my knee when I was on that site. It was very muddy. Additional, coverage, they have that barrier up gradient as well. I also asked them to reinforce it with hay bales. After I reviewed the site here that you can see, I requested an additional layer of hay bales in the back there. This is the choke point. This is where everything kind of drains out to. There's a large stockpile. If you look, probably image 1 or 2, you can see a large, image 4, you can see a giant stockpile. Just sitting on that side of the slope there, it's creating a lot of energy as water sheets off. So image 12 is a hay bale check dam system just to reduce the energy, reduce the erosion, reduce the burden on the silt fence down gradient. And
Good idea.
that's where the property stands as of right now. This one was also added to my list of monthly maintenance to monitor the erosion controls.
So overall, are they
They are,
trying to make an effort?
no, frankly, I was very pleased. They're back into compliance from my knowledge. I read them the riot act as far as the breach that occurred. They could very much tell I wasn't happy with the fact that that
We
happened
did
at
get
all.
some fairly heavy rain.
Yeah,
Is that a significant factor, or is this just they kind of did the least they could do and get away with it?
No, frankly, they installed the erosion controls properly. It's just there's so much unstable soil and so much sheet flow that's occurring on this site that it was overwhelmed within months, I would wager to bet.
Well, then your approach of, put in another layer makes sense.
Right, and I'm gonna be monitoring it monthly. There's, a lot more construction to be done on the site, and I just wanna make sure that that choke point, holds up, and that's.
Is the site work that they're doing there correspond with what the application and the permits show for that property? The grading and the cuts and whatever that they're doing over there?
From
is-
my knowledge, yeah, they had a berm on the side of the property that's adjoining to the complainant.
Mhm.
They have a very steep slope there, and
Yeah.
the fill that they had conducted kind of changed the grade. I was told that that berm was kind of created to channel water from entering that
Okay.
property, which makes sense. That kind of feeds into the channel that they dug on one of the images, but everything else seems relatively.
Depending on the steepness of the slope and so forth, may have been some kind of matting required or some other things that it wouldn't be the first time a contractor or applicant, didn't follow what
I'm gonna
was
be-
approved.
I'm gonna be completely honest with you, when I reviewed the documents, they were
Wasn't
sparse.
anything?
They were sparse, and I
Okay.
was shocked.
How old of a permit or application or whatever is this?
I can look into it, but it was a few years ago.
Uh-huh,
Because the property that gets cut through sold this off.
okay,
So they just started construction,
okay.
a few months back, but
Well, maybe we need to pay a little more attention to just what you're saying, Carl, and to staging too, doing this stuff in phases.
Yeah, phasing, the construction phasing or whatever,
Yeah.
yeah, just a thought.
they have wetlands markers out there. You guys did determine that that was necessary. There's a big, also adding to the, I forgot to mention this, adding to the issue of water on the site, all the way up at the top of the gradient there, if you look at my pictures, you'll see the little town car I have. There's a pond on the neighbor's property that's now sitting 50 feet above the grade from where the silt fence was.
Well, that's a problem when it get a good heavy rain. Isn't it?
So there's quite a bit of water that moves through that site at quite a fast clip.
Mhm.
And from what I could tell, it just needed to be handled that day, and I was happy to see that they did the corrective actions, but
Okay.
that's where that one was left off.
I missed the last meeting, but during that period of time, I had an additional thought, and it's somewhat related to our discussion. You had issued a cease and desist at the Jeremy Road site, and you issued a cease and desist at the South Main Street site, and both of those owners chose to do things while the cease and desist was in effect.
1200 Main Street didn't.
Well, he cleared out in the back, you said, and
He did
there-
remove
there
some
was
of the
some
vehicles. Yeah,
minor-
yeah, yeah.
It wasn't
Okay.
major
You're right.
activity, but
Yep.
there was some activities that went on. The building, Mark Cody in the building office, when he issues a cease and desist, they use a red tag that they put on the building, and then, it says, do not remove the tag, do not work here,
I like that.
ba, ba, ba. I don't know if there's a particular ordinance or anything that goes along with that tag that authorizes it or not, but maybe we should look into doing something similar. They actually put it on the outside.
It's a physical tag.
Yes, I believe so. It's a red tag. You can ask him about it.
100%,
And
absolutely.
if he,
Grab one, let's take a
and-
look at it.
Yeah.
what's that?
Let's take a look at
It's a
it.
I believe it's a red tag about that big.
We might be
it's
able
a-
to use the same ones, what I'm thinking.
It's
Maybe.
affixed to the building.
I believe so.
Yeah.
So if that's within our ability to do so,
Mhm.
we might, we've never done that, don't get me wrong.
Right, but
But-
considering,
It might be worth looking into
I
that.
think that's a great idea.
It might even be better if we could, instead of the red tag, which would be difficult if it's just a site without a structure, maybe a sign like you put notification that this is under review, the ones you stick in the ground.
Sure.
And that
Something
makes it
like
even
that.
more present.
Yeah,
you
those
know?
with the wire rack.
Yeah, boom, done.
Something like that.
Yeah, they do it
Stake,
for,
one of those oak stakes you use to put the,
A notification of the upcoming thing, like they do when you're getting approval for one of the zoning apps, you know?
right.
They actually charge for the sign, and if you bring the sign back intact and everything, you get your deposit back.
money back. I love that.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
great. That's much better.
It's
That
not only informative to the public,
tells the
which is well
contractors.
within their rights to come into these meetings and voice their opinions or what they've seen, which 1200 Main Street wouldn't have been brought to my attention if it weren't for the, you know, concern of a anonymous party that drove by and contacted me a couple days. I think that's a wonderful idea. The red tag, given the 1200 Main Street, if we're just spitballing ideas, I'm not sure how well that would have worked, given that the
Just,
owner is not the tenant, so I'm not sure who you're notifying at that point.
Well, if it's a physical tag, I mean, you know, you can go to the front of the driveway and hammer a sign in
Yeah.
next to the
That
driveway.
would put everyone on notice, and in some instances that I've experienced, because we have a lot of property, we found that people, whether it's, the same tag goes on a HVAC unit, and if it has a problem or leaky gas, then the tenant is very inclined to just rip it off and throw it away. Big blatant sign out front, you know,
Not the same.
not the same, scary.
I think that's great.
If we do not have anything in our regs giving us authority to install a sign given a notice of violation,
Why don't you check with Mark and see what his authorization is? It might be general,
okay, it might be an ordinance with the town.
or it might be a state.
Because
I don't know.
there might be a discussion in the future, if this is something we want to go into, that we need to adopt a regulation pertaining to violations that states a sign will be installed on your property.
Can be.
It'll maintain for X amount of days. If you remove the sign, such and such could happen. That may be.
there's a penalty, I believe, for removing the,
So I'll look into, yeah, what the town has as far as ordinances.
That's great.
If there's nothing for us, we'll have a discussion as to
you
what we
could
can do.
always put it within the road setback.
Mhm.
Yeah,
You know, you
totally
wouldn't need
fair.
any additional permission to do that.
You're right.
No, you can put it right next to, as I said, next one, where the driveway goes out to the street.
Yeah.
I think that's a wonderful idea, frankly. It can list when the hearing is. We won't have any issues with people not knowing, frankly.
Right, neighbors would be visible to neighbors or passerbys, yeah.
Keep their
Yeah.
eyes open
Yeah.
if they care.
Yeah.
I think that's wonderful. Good.
So I will look into that. I will report back, you know, I don't know if I can report back during our work study, but if I can, I absolutely will.
We can talk about things, can't we?
You never know,
You
frankly.
certainly
I'm
can.
learning more and
I think
more every
that's
day.
great. You are done, I hope.
I'm done.
Good. You're toast.
It's been quite the week,
I'll
guys.
bet. Okay, bills and receipts. Nothing?
Nothing this
Okay, very good. I believe we have, oh no, here we go, correspondence?
Nothing.
No? Something about potential bridge replacement?
That was last.
That was last.
Am I on the wrong thing again? No. It's a cheap old piece of paper.
You get minutes?
Okay, minutes, approval of the December minutes. I had some comments, which I will email to Sonia.
I was absent.
I was too, but
I do want to give commendation to Dan. I think he did a wonderful job kind of holding down the meeting while you
Sounded
guys
like
were
he
out.
did.
I really, thought he held it down. It was a busy meeting and there was a lot on the agenda.
Was there, yeah.
I think he did a wonderful job, so just to,
apologize for not being here. I was sick. I still
Understood.
am, actually. I think, any other business? Anybody? No? Okay. I think we can entertain a motion to adjourn, unless you all want to stay.
May I make a comment, or is it inappropriate?
I guess you can. We're about done. Sure.
Very simple.
yeah, just come up and state your name again.
Yeah, again, Carol Winship, and I just want to, hey, Carol, say, the workshops are open to the public, by the way, and how will the public know that you're having a workshop?
Notice in the paper.
I couldn't
Yeah.
understand her. Could
I
you?
can understand. Could you
I
repeat
couldn't
that?
understand
Did
you.
not
I'm
understand.
Workshops are open to the public. How will the public be advised that you're having workshops?
We
I
will-
don't know the answer to
That will
that.
be at least go in the paper, we have to do that.
For the
aquifer
workshops?
Protection, and we may do something else, I don't know, we'll probably post something on the doors, I don't know. We'll figure that out when we get there. We have to
Okay.
go back and review the regulations.
So at the very least, there will be a notice in the paper.
I mean, it's all public record, I don't know, you know, I assume we'll have to take some kind of notes or something, or how does, or record it, or however that works, I don't know.
If there's a quorum,
I haven't done a work session in a very long time.
I know. And with regard to Hollow Swamp Estates, there's a lot of information on that parcel earlier in the years when it went to the town for approval for the subdivision. So there's a lot of material out there that might help you make your decisions. Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, we have some things to figure out. So,
Motion to adjourn?
I'll second. Barbie's seconding.
The site that you were going to, you're talking about going to next week, if it ends up on a Monday, I don't know, that is a holiday for some people, I'd be interested in going. I finally
Okay, well,
get
talk to Sonia
get
about
a
that.
paid
We'll
holiday off, so.
figure all that out. Of that, need a second?
Glad to do it.
Motion seconded, all in favor of adjourning?